If you've ever had to take a significant amount of time off of running, I'm going to address three things that may contribute to why you had to take time off. I know this was definitely a factor for me when it came to running about a year ago, a little over a year ago. I had to take some time off. I was just so burned out. I slept 12 hours a night on the weekends. I was taking naps all the time. And so I had just hit that point where I needed to recover. And so now that I'm much more into running and I have a 100-miler in about a week and a half, I am back, but I've reflected and learned from those or that period of time where I took time off. So let's talk about three things you should stop doing if you enjoy running, especially if you just want to keep running and don't want to burn out. I think these three things will increase your chances of having to take time off. So the first thing, if you are avoiding stretching, I think this is just one of those big things that you can implement right away, and it really transforms your running, especially when you're consistent. I'm a certified yoga teacher, and I have fortunately always been someone who stretches or does yoga, and I think it's a big part of why I've been able to do a lot of crazy things like 10 marathons in 10 days, or running a half marathon the day after a 100-miler. Yeah, I'm definitely young, but not everyone at 23, 24 is doing the stuff that I've been able to do. And so I'm sure my age is a contributing factor, but a big part of why I've been able to stay healthy is stretching. Now, leading up to when I got burnt out or when I've had things that I think are injuries, I'm not stretching. And so I think one of the things you can do as a runner, I would much rather you take a mile or half a mile off of your run every single day and throw in 5 to 10 minutes of stretching than run that whole volume. What I mean, like, is if you run 5 miles 5 days a week, it's 25 miles. That's awesome. I think that's great. But I would rather you drop a mile and stretch after every single run, especially if you're going to use the excuse that I don't have enough time or I already have so many things I'm doing. Just run 20 miles a week, but stretch after every single run. So what I do for stretching, I do 1-hour yoga sessions sometimes, but mostly what I do for stretching is immediately after every run, before I go inside or before I move on with my day, I stretch for about 7-10 minutes. It really doesn't take a lot, and if you don't have the time, then I would just reduce your runs a little bit and then stretch. I think that's a big part of staying healthy and being able to keep running. So if you're avoiding if you're avoiding stretching, you should definitely start implementing that. The other thing I like to talk about when it comes to running, because I get questions from people about how to get back into it or feeling a little burnt out or maybe getting injured. I think if you are impatient with your running, that's my point number 2. Excuse me. If you're being impatient, I think it's very important to think about the long term when it comes to running. And what do I know? I am 24, and who knows how I'm going to feel decades from now. But I do think about it. I do think a lot about, well, am I going to want to be miserable or in pain 3 decades, 4 decades from now? And the answer is no. And so I think one of the best things you can do is learn that this is a long-term thing, and you probably, most likely, want to be able to run for the rest of your life. Some people don't want to. Some people are just trying to run a marathon and move on with their lives. That's totally fine. For any runner, I think if you ask them, most of them would say, yeah, I want to be able to do this for as long as I can, right? And so if that's the case, then you don't have to crush yourself with volume right now. You don't have to crush yourself with speed workouts 3 days a week. And if you can handle that and you can do that while being healthy, I think, power to you. But ultimately, my point is if you build over time, there's some 50, 60-year-olds I've seen be able to run 100-mile races, and they're able to do that because they've built on it over time. They've done the right things. I once heard this rule, I don't know how true this is, but basically your weekly average volume should be 10 miles for every year you have been running. So, not that it should be, but meaning that's like what's healthy for you. So if you've been only running for 3 years, you should only be running 30 miles per week. I don't fully agree with that, but I get the concept of what that point is over time you can do more because your body is used to it. So be patient with it, which kind of leads into my third point. If you are running every run hard, or you are running every run with a higher heart rate, I believe that needs to stop, or at least you need to adjust it a little bit, because if you're familiar with some of the stuff I talk about how zone 2 running is just really important, or building a base. And so if every run you feel like you're going to puke or you just break yourself, which is how I started running. Just every run I was running like these 7:30-minute miles. And if you're doing that, you're just increasing your chance of getting injured, which means, then you have to take time off from running. And ultimately, you're leaving gains, if you will, on the table. Because when you have a wide enough base, when you've done a lot of zone 2 running, you are able to stack more fitness on top of it. And I believe, personally, one of the big reasons why people hit this wall, or they're not able to get faster, or they're not improving, a big part of that might have to do with not having a wide enough base or doing enough base work. And so I would look up videos on how to do zone 2 training, how to calculate your heart rate zones. I had to send a workout to someone to calculate my heart rate zones for me because I've seen a bunch of different formulas. I don't know what the right thing is. But ultimately, do some research, see what works for you. And then what I'm trying to do is roughly spend about 80% of my time running in zone 2 or building a base. And I think that helps me not cap my fitness, and it also helps me be healthy throughout the process. So hopefully you get something out of this video. If you like running content, that's what this channel is about. I'm just trying to help people learn from my mistakes, and running quite literally saved my life. So if I can get people into running or help them enjoy it more and stay away from injuries and whatnot, that's enough for me. So consider subscribing, and if not, I still hope you got something out of this video, and I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.